Hey, everybody. Happy Monday. Happy July 1st. And happy birthday to Tom.
Yeah, it's my birthday today.
It's his birthday today. Went out for steaks. Had some cake.
Yeah. Steak and cake.
Steak and cake. That sounds like
Pretty good, yeah.
That's
Got money.
nice.
People gave me money.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like money.
I like money.
Yeah. So it's been pretty good. 55 years old.
Yep, it's his 55th birthday.
55.
That's got to be some kind of milestone,
55 years of motherfucking excellence.
Shit, I should have made a card that said that.
Yes,
funny.
indeed.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So, saw The Prestige. Saw it last night. It was a great movie. What's the name? Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
He's the one who directed this.
Yep.
And it's got all the cast that you know from him. You know, all the Batman cast and shit. David Bowie's in this. He fucking knocks it out of the park as Nikola Tesla. I forgot that was David Bowie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's only in a couple scenes, but holy crap, he just like low key steals.
He gets
the shit.
it. Yeah, and he doesn't play himself. He plays a foreigner. You know, fucking.
Because Nikola Tesla was what, Dutch?
No, he was from Croatia, wasn't it?
Yeah. He was Eastern European.
Eastern European guy.
That's right.
Might have been Ukrainian,
yeah,
but he was Croatian.
that's right. I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like he was actually the perfect person to play that role.
Yeah, it's about now I know CB, he's in there saying, "Oh, I haven't seen it. I hope it's good." It's good, but we're gonna spoil the fuck out of this movie.
Well, because this movie, it came out in 2006. Okay, I've seen it probably 4 or 5 times, and I like that DVD Dragon said The Prestige is a movie that you can watch over and over again.
Yeah, you see more
once you know the reveal, and it's still good. You see things that you did not previously see. Every single time I watch this, I pick up new shit. The screenplay for this is so densely layered, and like every single detail in there means something. It's mind-blowing. Yeah,
stories about these 3 magicians. One of them is an old magician. He's played by dude that was in The Hand. The guy Michael Caine.
He's not a magician. He's the guy that builds the illusions. He's their he's engineer guy.
And he trades magicians too, in a way. He calls himself a engineer, I think is what he calls him. Enagio, right?
Or engineer. I can't remember that. It's a French word. That
use some kind of French word. It just in Portuguese it's engenheiro. It means
French
technical.
word.
Yeah, technical dude.
Yeah.
Right. But he basically knows everything about magic and shit like that. And it's about him, and he's kind of playing the normal role that he plays. He's, the white old wise guy. He basically playing the white Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
In it, you know what I mean? He knows, he tries to warn you, but you don't fucking listen and you get fucked up. He's one of those. And then there's these 2 younger magicians played by Hugh Jackman, dude who played the Wolverine, and then the dude that played Batman.
So it's Batman versus Wolverine.
Yeah, what's his name?
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale, yeah, Christian Bale. and
completely different roles, really. But
these 2 dudes, they start off as friends, but then Christian Bale accidentally, I guess, kills Hugh Jackman's, the guy who played, I'm going to call him Hugh Jackman, you know what I'm talking about. Kills his wife, and she was cute as shit. She drowns in a fucking magic act. She was trying to get out of a dam.
Like a water tank, like a water
tank.
Escape.
Yeah, and Christopher Nolan wasn't sure he tied the right knot or not. That he might have tied the wrong knot.
And there's a reason for that.
Yeah, and this starts off a fucking grudge match between them.
Yeah, like a blood feud.
Yeah, and it's these 2 magicians. They were started off as kind of like magician's assistants, I think, first, weren't they?
Well, they started out as they were like not assistants necessarily, but they were plants.
Plants, yeah.
So they would like be in the audience, and they'd be like,
call them up.
"Hey, call up here and like inspect everything or tie this girl up or whatever." But they were in on it, which is something that a lot of magicians do.
Yeah, this is all happening in the 1800s.
Yeah, like late 1800s, like Victorian era.
And they get into this fucking blood feud, and a lot of shit happens in the movie. They talk about this ancient Chinese master magician, and how they never could figure out how he got the fish bowl up on the fucking...
Up on the table?
Up on the table. He walks up and throws a rag over the fucking table, and it lands on a fish bowl, I guess.
It's like a fish bowl.
And they're like, wow, how the fuck did that happen? And that was one of their assignments, is try to figure out how fucking that dude did that. That's why they were still friends. And that's very important about the story about the Chinese guy. And they realized that in order for him to get that trick right, he had to pretend he was something that he wasn't. He had to pretend that he was crippled. And he lived his whole life pretending that he was crippled.
And old. Like
and old.
Which he wasn't.
He was neither. He was neither old nor crippled.
Fun fact, I think that magician in the movie was based on a real dude.
Right.
Except the real dude I don't think was even Chinese. He just pretended to be an old
Pretended to be
Chinese.
Okay, well, so it starts going down that angle. Kind of like, what was that, Damnation Alley? No, what was the name of that fucking one with the carnival actors?
Nightmare Alley.
Nightmare Alley. Excellent flick. The movie starts going along the lines that in order to be a master magician, you had to live it.
Yeah.
You had to fucking live the role. And your whole thing was protecting your secrets and stealing other people's secrets. You know, their magic tricks. And so that's the setup. These two dudes that were once friends turn on one another. And the dude's trying to destroy that guy for making a mistake and killing his wife. And then the other guy's trying to fucking figure out that Hugh Jackman's fucking magic trick. And one of the trick that he has is called the teleported man.
Well, now Borden does that one first. Christian Bale does that trick first.
Yeah. The other guy, he does a different, the teleported man.
And Hugh Jackman can't figure out how he does it.
He did it.
But he's like, I have to figure it out and do it better.
Yeah, and fucking the engineer says, well, there's only one way he could do that. He's got a double.
Right.
He runs into one door and comes out the other. So the real guy is underneath the stage, and the double finishes the show. That's the only way. And he's like, I don't know.
He's like, it can't be that simple.
Can't be that simple. It's something that looks like...
It's driving him crazy.
Right. So then comes in Hugh Jackman. I think it's Hugh Jackman goes to Nikola Tesla.
At Borden's... He basically baits him into going to Tesla, implying that that was the secret to his trick.
Right. So
he goes to the U.S., to Colorado Springs.
And he gets Tesla into this. He says, "Price is no." He says, "This teleported man. You know, I want that for real. You know, with using technology."
Well, he said, "I heard that you built Borden a machine."
Yeah, that's right.
And I want that same machine.
That's what it is. The machine was already built. I forgot about that.
But it wasn't, though. But that's like I said, there's a whole...
Yeah, there's a bunch of fucking shit.
Yeah, this is one of those movies...
I get kind of confused in this movie.
One of these movies, and Christopher Nolan does this a lot.
Because all the characters are lying to each other.
Yeah.
Trying to deceive each other.
Well, the whole thing about The Prestige, the movie, and it was based on a book, if you didn't know, which I have read, so I'll get into it. It's a lot different, though, like the book is. But the whole point of the movie is that he set it up exactly like a magic trick. Yeah. So everything is like misdirection,
right?
Like at all times. And he also, and Christopher Nolan does this a lot, but he never wants to do anything in chronological order. So this movie jumps all over the place in time, and you really have to pay attention because there's really there's nothing that like tells you, oh, we're doing a flashback now or anything like that. It's just one scene, and you just have to figure out when this is in the timeline, because they don't really tell you.
It wasn't super hard for me.
It's not super hard to follow. I didn't think.
Yeah, it's just that you're not sure what's happening because there's a bunch of shit that's being. All the characters are lying and deceiving you, the viewer.
You, each other, themselves.
Yeah, and each other, and they're trying to protect each other's secrets. Make a long story short. Turns out Nikola Tesla could make a machine.
He figured it out.
But he explains, he says, in real science is fucking dangerous. Okay? He says, it's ruined my career to give people real science. Because you can come up with shit that they're not ready for. And what he's talking about is disruptive technologies. And one of the things he was working on, and some of the shit that they show him doing, he really was doing it. Yeah. Trying to broadcast electricity. Or pump electricity into the ground. So all you had to do is instead of plugging in something into a wall socket, you just plug the fucking wire into the ground of your appliances to run.
Yeah, they show that in the movie. There's a gorgeous shot in this movie where Hugh Jackman's character, whose name is Robert Angier, by the way, goes to see him, and they take him out of this field, and there's all these light bulbs, and they all light up.
Yeah.
And there's no wires.
Yeah, it's true. He could do it.
Yeah.
It's just that it was very inefficient, and there was some danger to it. But he was still working on it. Anyway, he says, I'm going to try to build this machine for you. And he says, but, he goes, all unexpected things are going to happen in science. You just got to keep working with it until you get the desired result. So he built this machine that was supposed to teleport an object. He started off with a hat. He threw the boy's hat on the ground and fucking shocks it with electricity. Nothing happens. He says, "Come back later. We'll figure it out."
We'll figure it out.
And,
it's broken.
He kept doing that, and nothing would happen. Then he goes, "Maybe we'll try something different this time." He puts a cat there, a black cat, and he shocks it. And then electricity comes down, and it vanishes, but it comes back. You see it kind of, and then it's there like nothing happened. And he's like, "Still not right." So when he was leaving that time, he went out and there's a pile of hats and a bunch of black cats out there.
And like another black cat.
And another black cat.
And he's like, oh, your machine's working, but it's not teleporting. It's making an exact copy.
It's making two.
And putting one over there and leaving one where it is.
It leaves one of them in the spot where you shocked it, and a new one is created a certain distance away, a copy. And they're two exactly the same.
Yeah, it's like a clone.
So he's got this machine, and he uses it for his disappearing man act. The thing is it makes an extra one of him, and he doesn't know where he knows one of them will appear a certain distance away, and then he can run back in. Hey, here I am. But he doesn't know if he's going to be the one sitting there. It makes one right where you fucking
right in the machine,
and another one further away, and you don't know if you're going to be the one further away or the one where you're right there where you were getting shocked. So every time you did it, you didn't know if you'd have to run or if the other copy of you would have to run. Well, that's not going to be good if you have two. So you have to kill one of them. So every time you use this machine, the one that's standing still is going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going through the trap door right into the water tank and drowning.
Later on, the guy says, "You don't know how much fucking bravery you have to go in there and pull that fucking lever, because there's a 50-50 chance you'll be that one in the tank."
Here's the thing, though. When he said that, I'm pretty sure. I'm not really sure with this because obviously nobody has a teleporter or a duplicator machine like this. I'm pretty sure that every time, like, the person that was in the machine was the one that died. But because the copy was an exact copy, each copy of Angier that was in the Prestige that was at the end, that would still think he was the real one.
Yeah, I think.
But I think that he was getting replaced every time.
Yeah, I think the original was dying.
Yeah.
And he was making a copy, and the copy would live.
But the copy didn't matter because
didn't care.
Because remember when they first figured out what was happening with the machine, because they just thought it wasn't working until they found like all these hats and stuff like that. And then, remember when Angier was leaving and he's like, "Oh, don't forget your hat." And he's like, "Well, which one's mine?" And he said, "They're all yours."
They're all your hats. It's the same hat.
It's the same hat.
Yeah.
There's just like a whole
and it's
shit
not
ton
a
of
copy. It's the same hat. There's just two of them now. So it's been displaced in time-space.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
And they're both existing in the present, which is a wild concept. This might be possible. A dude like Nikola Tesla might stumble into some shit like that, as weird as he was.
That's what was kind of so cool about this movie is that it kind of goes I don't see a lot of complaints about this movie because most people, especially people that are into Christopher Nolan, like really love this movie and think, oh my god, it's like so underrated, because a lot of people don't really talk about it. They talk about like Inception and his Batman movies and stuff like that, which are good and everything too. But honestly, like after Memento, I think this might be my favorite movie of his. I love this movie so much, and I just love how like densely layered and like thematically resonant it is, and every single detail like matters. But see, I don't know, like, so what were we talking about before I said that?
Well, the thing is that you know that Hugh Jackman could copy himself, and he's killing the original.
Yeah. He
can't stand fucking the Batman dude. What's his fucking name?
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale. He can't stand that dude.
Borden is Alfred Borden is his character's name.
He can't stand him because he thinks he killed his wife. So what he comes up with this. He realizes that he's eventually going to come try to steal the fucking secret to it. And what he does is he hooks it up so Borden gets blamed for his murder.
Yeah.
The dead guy in the tank, he says Borden did it by locking him in there.
By changing the lock on the tank so he couldn't get out.
Right. And then the new copy goes in. The new copy, he doesn't even describe. He doesn't even care that there's two of them. He says, "Well, there's a dead body there on a slab. You're fucking charged with my murder." Even though.
Well, he went into hiding after because
he went into hiding. But
I don't
he
know.
showed up at the prison.
Right, but see, I don't know if you know, but see, as Angier, as the magician, he was also living a lie. He was actually a lord. He was a.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because remember, they had even before his wife died, they had a discussion about. He came from like an aristocratic family, but he wanted to be a magician, and he had to change his name so he didn't bring shame on the family. So he's actually slumming as a magician. But see, that's how he had all that money.
That's how he had the money
to give to give to Tesla, and that's how he had an identity to go back to.
I just thought he was just a rich magician.
No,
he got that from.
No, he was a lord.
He was even richer than a magician.
Yeah, and he started out as one. That was another conflict, and I think, like I said, they don't hit it real hard in the movie, but that's another conflict between the two of them, is that he is this really very, very wealthy man who's slumming as a magician, and all he cares about is ego and accolades and everything like that.
Powers.
And and stuff like that. Yeah. And Alfred Borden is like a working class dude who kind of worked his way up. Yeah. That's why Christian Bale talks with that Cockney accent, which is kind of close to his actual
The Christian
accent.
Bale guy is actually the better magician out of two.
Yeah.
But they're both real. I think he's better showman. They're both great magicians, but I think he's a better showman. But Christian Bale, he has these weird abilities too. In the end, he gets hanged for murdering the guy that was still alive.
Yeah.
And then Christian Bale comes back from death. And you realize
or so it seems.
Or so it seems. It's like he survived death somehow. And it turns out there were two of them. That they were twins all along.
Yeah.
That they were pretending to be one person, which explained all this fucked up shit that they did to women. You thought he's cheating on his wife with the assistant. Nah, one of them loved the wife and the other one loved the assistant, but they didn't know of each other. They didn't know there was two.
Yeah, neither of the women knew.
He was cheating on his wife. He wasn't. They were two separate guys.
I think ScarJo figured it out. Right.
Sometimes they would switch.
Yeah.
And the guy who loved the assistant would actually sleep with the wife because the other guy couldn't be there. But he wasn't jealous of him.
But she knew that it wasn't... She didn't know it was two people. But she knew... She thought maybe he had some kind of problem.
Yeah, but they were... It was actually two different twins.
Yeah. And they lived like that their whole life. Nobody
knew they were twins.
That was the significance of, the Chinese magician. Because that's like just one scene.
Yeah.
Where they both... When the magicians are still friends. Yeah. And they go and try to figure out how he did this.
Right.
And... Christian Bale is like he's like, that's the trick. It's like his whole entire life is a performance.
Right.
So nobody knows.
Hugh Jackman's was too. His whole life was a performance because he was actually a lord.
Because he was actually a lord and he was just
pretending to be
because even Robert Angier's was not his real name. His real name was Lord Caldlow.
So they were all kind of fakes, but they could do things. They were all incognito.
The great thing about it is that neither one of the characters... One of the things I love about this movie is that both of the magicians are kind of shitheads. I would
twisted by evil.
I would argue that Hugh Jackman's character is far more monstrous. But I don't know. Well, because the thing about it is that Borden, Christian Bale's character, he is responsible for Angier's wife dying.
Yeah.
But he didn't mean it.
I don't think it was on purpose.
He didn't do it on purpose. It was just a horrible accident.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been prevented because they had a whole discussion about, he wanted to tie, like, to make the trick better, he wanted to tie, like, a harder knot.
Yeah.
But she was fine with it. She's like, yeah, maybe we should. That would, like, up the game a little bit, like, make it more challenging, make it a better trick. And so she thought it was okay. Even though Michael Caine and Angier were just like, no, that's not a good knot to use for this. Like, let's just use the easy shit. But he did use that one, or one of the twins used it.
He couldn't remember what knot he used.
Well, because it wasn't him, it was his brother.
Yeah.
And I guess his brother didn't tell him.
I didn't realize that. Yeah.
I told you every single thing in this movie
wasn't him.
Every single thing. That's why because remember at the funeral.
Yeah.
And he says, "What knot did you tie, Borden?" And he's like, "I don't know." He really didn't know.
Yeah, because it wasn't him that.
Because it wasn't him that tied it.
Yeah.
And if his brother had tied it, I'm sure he didn't tell him just to keep him from pain or whatever. It's just kind of like I've seen a couple of reviews of this movie again where people have brought up the quote unquote plot hole. They're like, okay, so the thing about it is that Angier, he is so dead set because when he sees Borden doing the transported man illusion, which is, you know, it's kind of not great at first. It's just two doors like way across the stage, and he goes in one and comes out the other one frames, like immediately.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh my God, that's an awesome trick. How the fuck did he do that? And Michael Caine is like, well, he's got to be using a double. There's no other way.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, it can't be that. It was the same guy. Yeah. You know, ScarJo is there. She's like, yeah, it was the same guy. How the fuck did he do it? It can't be that easy. And so because Borden knew that he thought that he did something elaborate, he sent him off on this what he thought was a wild goose chase to go to Tesla, implying that he was using some kind of like high-tech science or magic or something like that to do the trick, when really he was just using a double all along. It's just nobody knew that he had a twin. So Hugh Jackman gets his own self into this because of his ego, goes to Tesla, and he never built a machine for Borden. Borden might have met him once, but he didn't. Borden never went there. He never got a machine. He wasn't cloning himself or anything like that.
He didn't have the money
either. He just sent him off. He sent Hugh Jackman there, like, to fuck with him. Yeah. Like, because he was trying to fuck with him the whole time. But then it turns out that Tesla does actually build a machine that it doesn't exactly teleport you, but it's, you know, close enough, good enough. And so when Hugh Jackman takes the machine, so some people have said, well, if he had a machine that could duplicate it, why didn't he just make one duplicate of himself and then do the trick with the double, like like Borden did?
That's not what they wanted.
I was like, well, there's two reasons for that. One reason, Hugh Jackman's character was so egotistical that he would not have wanted anyone else to share in the accolades. Yeah. He did do the trick with a double at first, because remember they found, like, ScarJo found that dude that looked like him, and they kind of dressed him with that actor. Yeah. And they kind of dressed up, so they did it with a double for a while.
Yeah. And had power over him.
And he didn't like it because it's like he always had to be the one that went down the trapdoor, and the double was always getting all the standing ovation, and he couldn't stand it.
Right.
And then it turned out, too, that Borden got to the double, whose name was Root, and said, hey, like, you have all this power over him. You can ask for more money. You can fuck with him. You can blackmail him. You can do all this other stuff.
He was sabotaging tricks.
He was sabotaging his tricks and everything, and he ended up sabotaging one of his tricks. So he's like, okay, so I don't want to go that route. Another thing, too, which had never occurred to me until recently, until I watched it again, was that you remember when Angier had the machine, and he figured out that he could duplicate himself. And he asked the guy, like, he showed him the trick, and he's like, I want 100 shows. Why did he want 100 shows? He was trying to bait Borden into coming there and try to figure out how he's doing the trick so he could frame him for the murder.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he's like, well, I need 100 shows because it's like he's bound to find out about it sooner or later. And because they knew each other really well. Yeah. And he'll come there and try to see what's going on. And then I can say, oh my God, he killed, you know what I mean? So he set that shit up. And he let one of them hang.
Yeah.
So not only was he, you know, killing all of these, you know, all full people, like his own clones.
Killing himself. Now, he was the original.
I know, but like I said, I don't think after the first time, I don't think he was the original anymore.
No. Well, I think
like he
teleported himself and he died.
Yeah.
He copied himself and he got killed. And then the copy went and did it again. So then it was a copy killing a copy. And then making another copy, killing the copy. Yeah. So it was the copies that were going on. But he didn't care. He didn't care. Didn't make a difference to him.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what he was saying about, like, the sacrifices that he made. Yeah. And he also specifically drowned the clones just like his wife drowned.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fucked up. Yeah. But if you remember, because there was a whole thing about drowning, because he saw her drown, like it happened on stage. And they were trying to get her out, like, you know, Michael Caine was, like, trying to bust a glass with the axe, which he did, but it was too late. And then at the funeral, remember, Michael Caine said something about, oh, I had a sailor friend that drowned, and he was, like, he was out for, like, 5 minutes, like, before he started breathing or whatever. And he was trying to make him feel better by saying, oh, he said it felt like going home. Like, it wasn't that bad, like, drowning. But then, I think, like, a scene or two later, and I don't even know if you saw this, because it's really short, Hugh Jackman is sticking his face in a sink full of water to see what it felt like for his wife to die.
Huh.
And then when he pulled his head out, he's like starts freaking out because he realizes that Michael Caine was full of shit.
Yeah.
But save then Michael Caine at the end when he finds out what a dick Angier is, he says, "Oh, I lied about that." He said it was agony, drowning. And I was like, that's it, bitch, right there. Because you know what I mean? Like I said, Borden was not a great person either. The fact that he was keeping all of this stuff from his wife and kid. And he kept it from everybody that he had a twin.
Yeah.
And his wife, Sarah, who's played by Rebecca Hall, by the way.
She killed herself.
She ended up killing herself because she thought
he was fucking gaslighting her and being crazy.
Yeah. She didn't know what was going on with him. It's like she didn't know there were two of them.
Yeah, how he pulled that off is that they had a guy following him in the act, which was his twin disguised.
It was Fallon. It was his engineer, the same role that Michael Caine played for.
Nobody knew that was his twin.
Yeah,
and they would switch out.
Yeah,
they'd switch out,
and they did that.
It was two guys working together.
Yeah, they did that pretty much their entire. So they lived their entire lives that way. They had like. That's why I think that's why he didn't like. That was another thing that he had against Angier was that, like I said, he thought that Angier was like a dilettante.
Yeah.
And he wasn't really sacrificing for his art. He's like, he's sacrificed. He only lives half a life.
He sacrificed, all right, because one twin lost 2 fingers. So the other twin fucking had to chop his fingers off to match.
So they would match.
So they would match, yeah.
And that was like so great too, how that was set up because, like I said, some of the scenes you think they don't mean anything, but then like as things are revealed later on, you go back. This is why you need to watch this a couple of times at least. There's a scene where after he got the fingers shot off by Angier, like he came in and he was doing the bullet catch trick, and he came in and Angier came in and was trying to fuck with him, and he put a real bullet in there, but somebody pulled it back and it just shot his fingers off. Yeah. And he would have killed him, I guess. But the thing about it is that there was a scene a little bit later on, which, you're led to believe is like, a while later. And his wife is sitting there going, why is this still bleeding? This shouldn't be bleeding. It's like, it's bleeding because that's not the same
dude
person. Those are just the fingers that he just got them cut off. Yeah. So it's like the shot fingers were off like a little while ago, but then they decided they had. So his whole commitment to his magic act was essentially, like I said, living half a life. I love too, like this is a little detail that I thought was really cool, is that the disguise that Borden uses when he's Fallon, all of the makeup and appliances and stuff like that were all period accurate, as in it was all stuff that you would have been able to get in the 1890s. Like they didn't use any modern stuff because they wanted it to be realistic. Yeah. And it still looked good, because I will admit I saw this movie in the theater. Somebody else mentioned The Illusionist, which is another movie about magicians that came out right around the same time as this for some weird reason. I think I saw that in the theater too. I remember that being good also. Ed Norton was in it. But I think I liked this one better. But I saw this one in the theater, and the first time I did not realize that Fallon and Borden were twins until the reveal, because I think some people said that they figured it out, but honestly I think Christopher Nolan did such a good job of having Fallon be there, and there's a couple scenes in there where you're just kind of like, what's that about? But really you're not thinking about it. I think, like I said, the whole movie is kind of like a magic trick. It's all about misdirection. So he's making you pay attention to certain things while all this kind of shit is going on over here. And honestly, the shit about them being twins, it's pretty much, when you watch it again knowing that, it's pretty openly revealed. Like, he's not necessarily trying to hide it, but you're so busy concentrating on other things that you don't notice it. Yeah. Which, like I said, is what's...
Evidently, they teach the movie in film school, because Jenny found a bunch of stuff on it.
I found a bunch of, like, all these, like, really...
People writing stuff about it.
Essays and stuff like that. Well, I mean,
it's a good film. I'd like to see it again.
Yeah, it's... Like I said, it's definitely one that... I've probably seen it 5 or 6 times, I want to say. And every single time, I pick up new details, because every single scene, even if it seems incidental or even if it seems like it doesn't have anything to do with anything, it always has something to do with, I mean, okay, so like look at the scene with when Borden first meets Sarah, who will become his wife. And she's there at the magic show, and they do the trick with the bird.
Yeah, I knew you were going to talk about that.
Yeah, they do the trick with the bird, and you know, the magician, and I think at this point Borden is not even the magician; he's like the assistant.
Yeah,
and so the magician does the trick where it's, you know, this bird in a cage, and like he puts the thing over it, and then he goes like that, and then pulls it back, and then like he brings the bird back out. And the little boy that's with Sarah in the audience, like her nephew, he starts to cry, and he says, you know, where's his brother? Like, where's the...
No, he says he killed the bird.
He killed the bird. Like, at first he's like, no, it's fine. The bird's fine, see?
Bird's right. He goes, no, where's the brother?
And he's like, where's his brother?
Yeah, it's because a little kid could see the obvious.
And then, so Borden is like, oh, he's a sharp lad, isn't he? Like, that's all he says. And that's kind of where he meets Sarah. But see, that was foreshadowing killing the clone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the bird would go down. And there was a whole thing, too, like when Angier, he didn't really like killing the birds. Yeah. Because that's kind of fucked up.
They did that, though.
I know. They wouldn't let you do that nowadays. Yeah. But like back then, they did. It was a Victorian era. They didn't give a shit.
What we're talking about is that there was a trick where you had a table, and you put a bird cage on it, a little bitty wire bird cage, and threw a fucking towel over it, and then, boom, pretended to smash it, and it would go flat and vanish.
And then you pull it away, and there's nothing there.
Yeah, what happened was that the cage is a trick cage that collapses in on itself,
and then goes down into the table.
And then it goes inside the table. There's like a trick door in the table. The bird, of course, is smashed flat in that.
They just have another bird.
But it's so fast it just yeah. And then he's got another bird in his pocket that he pulls out and shows you. It's that
like,
simple.
It's the same bird.
It's that simple. Yeah.
Yeah. But so. Yeah. I love that everything, and then there's a scene too where Angier doesn't really like killing the birds, so then Michael Caine's character, whose name is Cutter, by the way, I don't think I mentioned that, but where he makes him this big rig where the cage actually collapses and like goes back into his sleeve, so it doesn't kill the bird. And they're going to do it at the show, like they practice it and it works really good and everything like that, and the bird is fine, and you can just use the same one, which will save them a lot of money on birds, I mean, right?
I think birds are probably a few cents back then.
Well, no, I'm just saying, it's half your bird budget. You're taking away half your bird budget. Yeah. It adds up. But then it so happens that when he's doing the trick for the first time, Borden shows up and sabotages it, and the bird ends up dying, and... Also, a lady in the audience like gets her finger broken and shit like that too. Because, like I said, they're constantly trying to sabotage each other's tricks, and so every time they'd have all these disguises on, like they'd show up and volunteer for the person's trick. It's like, I'm totally not your nemesis. I'm just gonna come and fuck up your fucking trick. And for real, they never figured it out. But like, yeah, it's. This movie, like I said, the more I think about it, it's just so densely layered, like all the shit that's going on in there, and it's just, I'm kind of in awe at the screenplay. Now, like I said, it was written by Christopher Nolan and his brother Jonathan, which, you know, they collaborate on scripts all the time, but I feel like a lot of people don't know that this was actually based on a novel that came out in 1995 by Christopher Priest. And he writes a lot of sci-fi and horror kind of stuff. Now, the book, the general outline is the same, but I read it a long time ago. I think my brother loaned it to me. And it's a great book, but it's a lot different than the movie. So don't go into it like thinking it has like a different ending and different shit. And they kind of took out, and I can see why they did what they did for the movie. In the book, the rivalry starts off not because, Borden killed the guy's wife accidentally. It actually starts out because Borden is kind of like a Houdini-style magician where he does not like... there's a whole spiritualism subplot. Yeah. Like, he doesn't like all these spiritualists that are pretending to have, like, magic powers, because he has, like, all of this, he's the magician's code where he's like, I do all these tricks, but people know that they're tricks. I'm not trying to, like, fool people into thinking that they're real. Yeah. And so he's a real stickler about people that do that. So Angier, and I think his wife, start doing, medium type shit. Yeah. And Borden gets pissed off about it and busts up his seance. And that's kind of what starts the rivalry. The book is laid out like, it's kind of like I think it's like in 5 sections, and 3 of the sections actually take place in the modern day, or at least modern for when the book came out, which was the mid 1990s. And so it has like modern day characters and stuff like that. So I'm kind of glad they eliminated that, even though in the book it's good. But then like the other 2 sections are just Borden's journal and Angier's journal. So you're seeing the same rivalry, but from 2 different perspectives. So I thought that was kind of cool. Now, there is the Tesla machine in the book, but it doesn't work quite the same. And it doesn't, and there's not the whole angle where Angier kills his clone every performance. Right. So
that's a good invention, though.
So I think that was a really good, because like I said, you know, I did see some people piss and moan. It's like, well, why didn't you just make a copy of himself and then do the trick? Like, just make one copy of himself. I'm like, well, because that wasn't his character. That he had a lot of reasons for not doing that. I mean, yeah, you could do that, but
he only wanted one him. He didn't want another him.
He didn't want, like I said, he didn't want to share the spotlight.
It's like me, Jenny, when I was fantasizing and saying, I wish I had a damn twin. Jenny was like, yeah, that'd be cool. And I said, no, I wouldn't like that. We'd be fighting constantly.
You probably would.
It'd be a constant power struggle, probably. Either that or we'd be inseparable. So then we'd be stepping on each other's dick all the time. Yeah.
Probably literally.
Yeah. We'd probably be great wingmen, though. We'd probably get all kinds of girls.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, back in the day.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
What, are you going to do that nowadays? No. You better not.
What are you talking about?
I just know. I'm just saying that, I don't know. Like I said.
There were 2 of me in here. How would you you couldn't stand it?
It would be awesome, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I don't know. Would it be? Like I said, you might just be at each other's throats all the time.
Yeah, I don't...
If I had a twin, I think we'd get along really well.
Yeah.
Like, we would just, like, hang out and stuff like that. But
I don't know how many twins actually share spouses. I think that happens.
Well, everything happens.
Yeah, I think that happens.
Pretty much.
I read about, like, the Barbie twins. They did weird shit. A lot. Fucking,
yeah.
They did shit with each other, too.
Yeah.
They're pretty open about it. So I'm not... Because is that incest or is that masturbation? What is that? It's the same DNA. It's the same person.
Yeah,
they're like clones.
I get that. But
yeah, weird.
It is pretty weird. But yeah. Camp Guy brought up the scene with the little boy that said, "Where's his brother?" Is spine chilling. It's incredible when you see it the second or third time. Yeah, this is definitely a movie that you have to see multiple times because it's just so rich with detail.
Yeah.
That it seems like every single line and every single scene and means something. And because the movie is not in chronological order, you don't really realize the import of anything until you've seen the whole thing and then go back and watch it again. And honestly, I've heard like a lot of reviewers say that they did exactly that. They said they watched it and then they're like, I gotta watch that shit again. And they immediately like watched it again.
Yeah. Which
I can see why you would do that because there's so much shit. Yeah. You're like, man, I missed so much. But like I said, at this point, I've seen it probably 5-ish times. With several years in between. I saw it in the theater the first time because I love movies. Because I think Phantom said not enough magician appearances in film. Yeah, I love movies about magicians and I love movies about spiritualism and like seances and stuff. And I especially like stuff that's set in this era, like Victorian era kind of shit. So when I was super jazzed when this came out and The Illusionist came out like right around the same time. I'm pretty sure I saw them both in the theater. And I remember The Illusionist being good, but I don't remember that much about it. I remembered this one a lot better. And then, like, later on, I went and read the book of this, too.
I liked it. It was more like a puzzle movie, but kind of reminded me of that Damnation movie that we saw. Damnation, whatever you call it.
Nightmare Alley.
Yeah, Nightmare Alley. That's right. Nightmare Alley.
Phantom asks, how long is this film? Because I have to check it out. Not 2 hours, is it? It's 2 hours and 26 minutes?
Yeah.
2 hours and 16 minutes? It's over 2 hours, for sure. Maybe 2.5 hours, something like that. But it's long, but to be honest, I didn't find it long. The acting is really good in it, and I really like... I mean, just the whole mystery and the rivalry between the two of them is so good and, like, so compelling that it's, like, it almost doesn't matter, like, the twist or anything. Like, if you could even call it that, you know? Because I kind of feel
Hugh Jackman could act. He could act. He played another character in this. It's like two different dudes.
Yeah. Well, what was so great about that? And I think a lot of people thought, because at this point, you know, Hugh Jackman had been like in some stuff, but he always kind of played. He generally played good guys, so I thought that was kind of cool that they kind of cast him against type. Because in this, he's playing a very suave, seemingly good guy.
Yeah.
But then as it goes on, he turns out that he's like a villain. He's a bigger villain than Borden. Borden is also kind of a bit of a villain.
He plays a sophisticated villain, and then he plays another guy who's a fucking scumbag.
Yeah.
A drunk scumbag.
And honestly, he did that so well that I was like, that's got to also be Hugh Jackman. But it's like, I'm like, wait, is it? Like, it's because he looks
a little bit different.
A little bit different.
The way he's holding his face.
I don't know if they put like some false teeth in there,
might have been false teeth
or something like that. But it's like he looks like him, but
the way he was holding himself, the way he was talking was totally different. But he was a trained Shakespearean actor. He's playing a trained Shakespearean actor that can immediately just boom go into character and be the magician, and act just like him, voice and everything, you know. So he can do that role, but it's just weird because you buy it because you see when he's not in character, when he's drunk, he's totally different.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. And then he can just become that magician guy.
Yeah, but and you have to think too that not only is Hugh Jackman playing that character who's a different person who's supposed to be his double.
Yeah.
But he's also the character he's playing is also a fake who's pretending to be, because here's another thing that maybe you didn't realize, that Hugh Jackman, he's a lord. He's British. I mean, Hugh Jackman in real life is Australian.
Yeah.
But he's British, and he has a British accent at the end when he comes to visit Borden before he gets hanged. But the whole movie, he's put on an American accent.
That's right. Yeah. He's got several identities going.
Right. Yeah. So it's this very, very layered role, you know what I mean? Which both of the actors are doing, really, because Borden is also playing two people, but you're not supposed to know he's two people.
Yeah. And Bowie plays Tesla running an accent and everything. He sounds foreign. He doesn't even come across as David Bowie. He's good, really good in it. And somebody just said that mentioned that he was Serbian, not Croatian.
That's right.
I was close. I knew it was somewhere.
You're a lot closer than I was. Yeah. I don't know why I thought Dutch. Who the fuck was I thinking?
No, he was.
That's completely
Eastern European.
That's a completely different.
I thought he was a Croat. He was a Serb.
Yeah.
They were in the same country off and on over time. Those two peoples.
But yeah, I mean, just all the acting in this is just like
that was Tammy.
Excellent across the board.
That was Tammy.
Okay.
I knew that.
And the more you appreciate how complicated the story is, the more appreciation you have for the acting performances, like what they had to do. Because like I said, you know, Christian Bale has to play essentially two people but living as one person.
You got to play twins, yeah.
But the audience isn't really supposed to know that they're twins. So he has to kind of subtly play it as two different people without showing his hand. You know what I mean? So it's like a really hard, I would imagine that's a really hard like task to pull off. And he does it really well, because I will admit the first time, I know there's some like people out there that are like, oh, well, I figured it out like the first time I watched the movie. I'm just like, okay, well, good for you. I didn't figure it out because I wasn't focusing on Fallon. I was focusing on other things, because he's there, but he's just always kind of around the fringes, and he's like, oh yeah, that's my guy, and every now and then like he'll say something to him, or hey, go do this or whatever. But it's like it never occurred to me that was him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That
they were twins. And there's a couple weird things, but it just didn't stand out to me because I was concentrating on other stuff. So, again, that's what I think makes this screenplay so good, is that it works just like a magic trick. It's like all misdirection, and he's getting you to pay attention to what he wants you to pay attention to, but then he's basically telling you the whole secret of the movie, like right in your face, and you don't realize it. And then at the end, you're like, oh, well, duh, that makes complete sense. And then, like, when you watch it again, it's like a much richer experience when you know like what's happening. But yeah. Camp Guy said also the last scene where the Borden brother goes to the prison at the end is pretty good. Yeah. I love that Borden's, well, one of the twins, I love that his last word before they hanged him was abracadabra.
Yeah.
and then he shows up again, like, and you're thinking, what the fuck? He just came back from the dead.
Yeah, that was weird when he's talking to his twin, the free twins in his disguise, and he says, "Okay, you live for me now. You live as
Yeah, live as a whole person.
Live as a whole person now. Yeah."
And I mean, and I'm glad they did kind of establish, right, that the guy that was Fallon at that point, like the one that was in the disguise that wasn't in prison, he was the one that had loved Sarah, the wife. So I'm assuming they never said like who the father of the baby was, of the kid was. She was a kid. But so I'm assuming that it was him. So it's like no, the other one.
The other guy, yeah.
Because the guy that got hanged,
yeah,
he was the one that was in love with ScarJo.
Right. Okay,
Olivia was her character's name. Like
well,
she
I think
was
they
the
were
assistant.
sleeping with both of them.
They were just to maintain the illusion.
Yeah, yeah.
But they both loved different women. Like so, like I said, they would sleep with the other one and like to try to maintain the illusion so nobody knew what was going on.
They couldn't be in two places at once sometimes.
I kind of feel like ScarJo figured it out because remember, or maybe Sarah did, because remember before, like the day before she killed herself, ScarJo says, he's like, "Oh, your wife like said she wanted to see me like the day before she died, and she said she wanted to tell me something about you."
Right. Yeah.
And so I'm not really sure if she was going to tell him, I think he's schizophrenic, or I think he's like two people, and
there's twins.
He's been pulling a dead ringers on me like this whole time. You know what I mean? Where if you guys did see David Cronenberg's Dead Ringers, there was a whole thing in that where there were twins.
Although, look,
and they were sleeping with one woman who thought it was the same dude.
I've known identical twins, but not for long periods of time. I think a woman would know the difference between them if they were sleeping with them.
Yeah, you would think that.
If she was sleeping with both of them, even if they were separate, I think she would figure out that one was different.
The thing about it is that here's the thing, though. I kind of feel like even if she did suspect that, you wouldn't want to think to yourself, "No, he wouldn't fucking do that. That's monstrous."
I've heard that twins have done that.
Oh, I'm sure they have.
Yeah, that one.
It's hard for me to say because I've never been in that situation. I have a couple sets of twins in my family.
Yeah.
But I could always tell them apart. I mean, they look exactly alike.
Yeah, but they have to be the same weight, though.
But I could always tell them apart. Yeah. Just they had slightly different mannerisms. You know what I mean? It's like I grew up around them, so it's like it was very obvious to me which one was which.
The stories I've heard is that twin guys, one of them will get a date with some chick, and then after a while he'll slip the twin in, let him try her out. Some weird shit.
That is kind of weird.
Yeah, and that the woman didn't know.
Although you would probably do that to me if you had a twin, I would imagine.
I don't know. Well, they shared. They shared everything.
I feel like that's some shit you would do.
Yeah, well, I can kind of understand it because they shared everything. They lived together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they would not fucking right away disclose that they were a twin.
Right.
And then they would kind of swap out.
Yeah.
On her.
I feel like in the movie, Borden, he doesn't do it to be a dick. Being a dick is just incidental. He does it, him and his brother, because they're both passionate about their art, their magic, and nothing can get in the way of that. So even if, one of them was in love with Sarah, the wife, and one of them was in love with Olivia, the assistant, they couldn't let anything shatter the illusion. They couldn't let anybody find out that there were two of them because it would ruin the magic. It would ruin the illusion. So they pretty much fucked over everybody in their life because that was the most important thing to them. But like I said, they weren't meaning to fuck over everybody. That was just like collateral damage, I guess. Yeah. So that's why I'm saying that Borden was also a shithead. But he was less of a shithead. He was less of a villain, less of a monster than Angier ended up being. And I feel like Angier didn't start out as a monster, but because of his wife dying and him blaming Borden for it, he just went all in. And the fact that he was so egotistical and so, so wanted of the adulation of the crowd and everything like that, that he was willing to go to any lengths to get it. And also his unwillingness to concede that Borden was actually using a double for his transported man trick. He's like, it can't be that easy, and it led him off on this whole thing. And even Tesla, after he gave him the machine, Tesla left him a note and said, destroy this machine. Like, throw it in the ocean. He said it will bring you only misery. And that's exactly what happened. He ended up getting his ass killed in the end.
Although I think I could have figured out something to do with that machine.
There's all kind of cool shit you could do.
Get a piece of gold.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say.
You just keep fucking making more gold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're not the first person that came up with that, because somebody in one of the comments...
First thing I'd do is go for some
was just
gold.
like, yeah, you should just go in there and clone a bunch of... Honestly, that's probably all you would have to do.
Yeah.
That would solve pretty much all your
you
problems.
can get a small piece of gold and just make many small pieces of gold and then make an ingot out of that.
Right.
And then start fucking... I'd be fucking rich, man.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like I said, after that, you wouldn't even have... After that, like, you could just put it in the attic, and every now and then you're like, man,
if you run out of money, you just make more gold.
Yeah, you just make more gold.
Yeah.
It's after a while, it would probably be like you're so used to it that you would only just use it for bullshit stuff. It's like you ate one burrito and then just like, man, I wish I had another burrito. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'd be that kind of bullshit.
Yeah, that was a good turkey, man. Put the half of that turkey in there. Make another half a turkey.
Make another half a turkey.
another half a gallon of ice cream.
Right, that's what I mean. I'm too lazy to go to the store to get more. It's like, make me another bag of Cheetos.
Yeah.
That's probably what I would have to do.
You probably would do some misery. If you like some chick, you'd make a copy. You'd have two.
Well, you know,
got two of them.
You know dudes would do that.
Yeah, I got two of them. And they'd be the same.
And then if one of them pissed you off, you could just drop her into water.
You got the other one. I would do that. Nice. There's two of you now.
That's terrible.
What a gift.
But well, because the thing about it is that, again, what made Angier monstrous, and some people have argued, and this is probably a good theory, is that because the original Angier was likely killed the first time he used the machine, which was not on stage, he was trying it out.
Yeah.
Because remember, he tried it out, and it cloned him, and there was another him right there, and he just shot him.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like the one that he shot was the original. Yeah. And after that, he wasn't the original him anymore.
Yeah.
So some people have argued that the more clones he made, the more monstrous and sociopathic he became.
Maybe not exactly the same.
Because he was like less and less from being like human or from the original.
The
like
copycat was fighting
the other cat.
Yeah,
and some people pointed out too that it's like maybe when it makes a clone of you, there's like a slight thing that that makes you contentious with the original.
Well, it might be you might be imperfect.
Right.
Slightly a worse version.
Yeah, so some people have argued that the more because he ended up making like at the last scene, which is fucking great. Like I said, and don't think too hard about why would he keep all those tanks with the bodies in them. It's like, don't worry about it. But it's like, so he had this big long thing with all these Dantons with all these Angiers in it that were drowned, and so he made like, I'm assuming almost 100 copies of himself. Yeah. And at that stage, he's losing a little bit more of his humanity, like every single time.
Yeah, he's a copy of a copy of a
He's a copy, right? Like, yeah, and you know how that happens,
right? Yeah.
So some people have pointed out, and I think that's probably correct. I don't know if that was what was intended, but it does seem that maybe he just got worse and worse. Because remember, like later on, there's a scene where ScarJo is talking to him, and he says, I don't care about my wife. I care about his trick. Yeah. Even though previously he had been all about the dead wife. Oh, yeah. Like he was really upset about it.
He'd been copied a couple times.
And by that point he'd been copied a few times. And the fact that he said that, and he even looked surprised that he had said it because she was like shocked. Right. And she was just kind of like, hey, I don't want to hang out with you guys anymore because it's like you're like inhuman. Yeah. I think she even used that word. And so I think that as he was becoming more copied, he was becoming less human, like his less human emotions. Yeah, I kind of feel like
he was lacking soul.
Right? Yeah, like more and more of his soul was like being frittered away, like every single time that he copied himself. Yeah, and the fact that he was killing because the people he was cloning, it's him, but that's still a full person. It has all his memories and everything like that. So you're killing a person.
I think he killed the original clone. He killed the original, and then the clones that came after the original. So
he was just being constantly replaced, like every night.
He was only a day old. Wasn't he doing this every day?
Yeah, I think
or was it once a week?
I think it was. I think it was 5 nights a week. They said like he was doing like 100 shows.
Right. So chances are, he was only like a day or so old.
Right.
On average. Yeah. Weird. Because he was materialized out of nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great fucking concept. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Well, what I was going to say before was
we told you to throw that shit away.
Well, Tesla told him.
Yeah.
I mean, he made it and he gave it to him.
Yeah.
He knew he was going to use it.
I told you, man, don't use it.
But, well, I think Tesla, he's only in a couple of scenes, but he understood the nature of obsession, because I kind of feel like obsession is like the main theme of this movie.
Yeah.
Like, and how it causes your downfall. Tesla understood because he has this whole conversation with Angier, and, you know, basically he's just like, this obsession, it's like really dangerous and everything like that. But then, you know, he's just, you know, Angier's kind of like, well, you can't really tell me about that, because it's like you spent your whole entire life like making all this stuff, even though Thomas Edison's people were coming and burning your shit down and everything like that. So
another thing that he said is, they said, told that judge, he said a magician made this machine. He told the judge, no. Now he said magician made this machine. He goes, no, a wizard. A wizard.
Yeah, he's like,
his
it's
magic
real,
was real,
and it's dangerous.
Yeah, his magic was real. And Nikola Tesla. That's what he said.
Yeah, that's what he was talking about.
Right.
But the fact is, I mean, Tesla, I think maybe, because what he said in the letter when he left the machine for Angier, when he got run out of town by Edison's goons, which is kind of has some basis in historical reality. So that's a fascinating topic too. But one of the things that he said was that, you know, maybe because you're a magician and your whole thing is not to show people the truth, but to show people a good illusion, you know, maybe the machine will be good for that. But it didn't really turn out that way, did it? But I thought that was like a really good... I thought there was like a good juxtaposition between those two characters, because like I said, Tesla was trying to find truth, like ultimate truth, whereas, you know, Angier didn't want the machine for that because of any scientific principle, or, you know, we're finding out stuff about the universe or anything like that. He's like, I just want to trick people or give people a sense of wonder again. Because remember, like, after Borden shoots him at the end and he's dying and he's given his big long, like, his dying speech or whatever, he admits that he just did it for the looks on people's faces, like, to give them the wonder back. Yeah. Because and I like that they set this during this era too, because this was an era, you know, why there was a rise of spiritualism and all of that stuff is just because science was making inroads into all the stuff which had previously not been understood all that well. And so some people were arguing that science was taking all the wonder out of life. You know what I mean? So I kind of feel like Angier's whole thing, I mean, other than being egotistical, which he was that he wanted to just fool people for a second so they would have that sense of wonder back instead of everything being explained to them. Because that's kind of that's another kind of point of the movie, is that people want to be fooled, which is another very recurring theme that, like, comes in throughout the movie, like how people want to be fooled, they want to be deceived just because they know it's not real, but they want to tell themselves it's real. So there's just like so much, like, fucking film school essays and papers and shit like that have been written about this movie, and I understand why, because holy crap, there's so much going on in this movie, and every single time that I watch it again, it's just reveals more and more layers, like an onion. You know what I mean? Yeah. This was only the first time you'd seen it. So it's good to see it again when you know all the secrets of it, because you can pick up a lot more. DVD Dragon says, sitting up there all day long making copies of Publix sub sandwiches.
Yeah.
I got him a birthday cake from Publix too. It's called the strawberry. What is it called? Peach strawberry sensation, or strawberry peach sensation, or something like that.
Yeah, it doesn't have frosting. It's just like a mascarpone,
like
chantilly
whipped,
on it. Whipped chantilly on it. Yeah, it's good.
And it's
so
like piled with fruit. It's like strawberries, peaches, kiwis,
fruit.
Grapes.
Yeah,
it's really good.
It's not rich, so so you can eat a lot of it.
I mean, Tom would eat the whole cake.
I could eat a whole cake, probably. Yeah. If I was hungry, I'd eat the whole cake.
But we had big steaks and baked potatoes today, so we weren't that hungry. But we did have one piece of cake though, like later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you had a good birthday, right?
Yeah.
I keep calling it birthday because that's what you call it. That's how I spelled it on the card too.
Yeah.
That happy birthday, like Bert and Ernie Day. Everybody's saying happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. You had a good one.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess we're going to wrap it up this evening. So Wednesday night's show is going to be, it's July 4th Eve, I guess. So we're going to do kind of a little bit of a weird American extravaganza. We're going to be talking about Williamsburg, Virginia, and all the hauntings there, like most haunted places in Williamsburg, Virginia. And we're also going to be talking about some American folklore and like tall tales like John Henry and Paul Bunyan, Pecos Bill, like that kind of stuff. So that should be a fun show. Night before 4th of July for all of you Americans. So hopefully you guys can join us for that. Thank you very much for hanging out with us this evening. And we will see you guys again on Wednesday night.